but that IQ is based largely on the frontal lobes of the brain. When we look at Adam's brain, if indeed it was 25 pounds, and that's what it would take if you're 13 feet tall, if you have the same proportion that we do today, Adam's IQ probably ran someplace between 12 and 1500. I mean, it was incredibly off the charts. And when you think of vision, think of how 6,000 years our bodies have deteriorated, our minds have deteriorated. I would suppose that Adam could see a bird perching on a limb 7, 8, 9, 10 miles away because he has this perfect vision. And think of his hearing. Think of Adam's hearing. What must it have been like to have your ears tuned by their Creator to understand and hear notes that are quite impossible for us even to determine? And think of when they ate the fruit in the Garden of Eden, like when they ate those bananas, and they ate those apples, and they ate those peaches. Think about their taste buds. Not only was the fruit pure, unpolluted, and undefiled by thousands of years of sin, but their taste buds were so electric, so alive as they tasted. It's very difficult for us to imagine what it must have been like there. But in our resurrected bodies, we will be restored to that Eden life. Isaiah 33 verse 24 says, also the inhabitant will not say that I am sick. The people who dwell in it will be forgiven their iniquity. No more sickness, no more cancer, no more heart disease, no more diabetes, no more rheumatism, no more arthritis, no more pains in your knees, your back, your ankles, your legs, your stomach, your head, or any place else. The Bible says the inhabitant will not say, I'm sick. The people who dwell in it will be forgiven their iniquity. No more residual guilt. The peace, the joy will fill our hearts. The Bible says in Isaiah 35, verse 5 and 6, the eyes of the blind shall be opened. The ears of the deaf shall be unstopped. The lame shall leap as a deer, and the tongue of the dumb shall sing. Perfect sight, perfect hearing, filled with energy. What is the expression? The lame shall leap as a deer. It means that your life will be filled with energy. Your body will be filled with vitality. There are people that really influence your life. And God has brought into my life some incredibly amazing people. I was only 21 years old when I met Joan Herman. And she had one of the most powerful and profound impacts on my life. When Joan was 17 years old, she developed bulbar polio. And a polio epidemic came through the United States before polio vaccine in 1948. Joan was 17, and she was paralyzed from her neck down. She could not use her hands to feed herself. After 17, she could never take one spoonful of food to her mouth. She couldn't brush her teeth. She couldn't button her blouse. Somebody had to do every single thing for her. She was placed in a large tube with only her head sticking out, called an iron lung, because even her lungs couldn't function. She had to be in that iron lung 20 hours out of the 24 hours every single day. Joan was placed at 17 years old in an old age home to die. Here's the problem. She was incredibly brilliant. The polio did not affect her mind. She's one of the most brilliant people I've ever met. And so there she was placed in a room with people that were 85 years old, 88 years old. They were immobile, they were dying. And this young, brilliant 17-year-old was condemned to spend the rest of her life in this iron lung. She wouldn't accept that. She taught herself to paint with a mouth stick lying in her iron lung, painting magnificent pictures. She taught herself to type with a mouth stick, and she began typing to senators and congressmen. And in her mind, she had a dream, the dream of establishing something called New Horizons. She called it a comprehensive home for the handicapped. And some of the top officials in America would fly in their helicopter and land on the roof of her hospital, and they'd come and talk to this woman. But something was missing in her life. There was no peace and joy. And she asked for a Bible, and she mounted it. She had a Jewish background. She mounted it above her head, and she'd turn the pages of the Bible with her tongue. And she found Jesus in the New Testament, and she gave her life to Jesus. And there, in that hospital, she began studying the Bible with her nurses. And when I met her, she said to me, Pastor Mark, I'm studying with 21 people in this hospital. Pastor Mark, go to my desk. I've got the Bible lessons there. And pull them out. I pulled them out. She had memorized all the Bible lessons. And she said, those are Jimmy's lessons. He comes to class on a board, pulling himself on the board with wheels on it because he has no legs. And there's Felicity's lessons, and she has cerebral palsy, Pastor Mark. And she said, Pastor Mark, here is Doris's lessons, and there, this young woman was studying the Bible. I used to study the Bible with her. I taught her something, but she taught me so much. When do you think this picture was taken? This picture was taken, I was 21 years old. It was taken 52 years ago. And here she's out of her iron lung. My wife and I would come and visit her. Teeny would make her food and feed her. We would take her sometime out in a van on a picnic. Would have to be so careful. She could go out 4 hours a day. My kids would sit on this little tray, and she got the greatest joy. She ran this motorized wheelchair with her mouth, and she would drive my kids up and down the hallways of the hospital. She established this comprehensive community. And I remember I'd go there and teach Bible class. And Felicity would come to the Bible class, cerebral palsy. And I'd be teaching about heaven. And in those days, I was young and I spoke really, really fast. And Felicity would raise her hand and say, Pastor, our minds go fast, but our hands go slow. Slow down so we can turn to the text. And you know, we'd come. And Jimmy would come to class on a board, pulling himself along with the wheels. And there was Doris. Now, Doris was blind and she couldn't see. Doris was dumb and she couldn't speak. And Doris's body was all frozen up and she was paralyzed from her neck down. She had one faculty, and that was her ears. She could hear. And we'd sing to her and we'd sing a song and say, Doris, you can smile when you can't say a word. You can smile when you cannot be heard. You can smile any time, and you can smile anywhere. And there Doris would give us this incredible big smile. I would teach about heaven. And I'd be done teaching about heaven. I'd say, okay, you guys, choose next week what you want me to teach about. And they would say, teach us about heaven. I'd say, wait a minute, I told you about heaven this week. Pastor, teach us about heaven again. Teach us about when Felicity is going to jump out of the wheelchair and throw it away. Teach us about when Doris is going to be able to see again, and when Doris can sing. Teach us when Joni's no longer going to be in that iron lung. Pastor, teach us about heaven again. But I taught you last week. But Pastor, we forget. We need to hear it over and over again, because we tend to forget about the new heavens and the new earth. And Monday comes and Tuesday comes, and we get absorbed in our work. The things of time crowd out the things of eternity.